We're now on the property of a spa and a restaurant here, and I just want to talk about the restaurant for a second because you can come into town and have sort of a nice experience. I'm at a lot of places. The Her Tavern has a nice kind of fine dining experience. The Blue Parrot is really, really tasty. The Dobbin House, the Burnsworth House. But for my money, the fine dining in Gettysburg is right there at Sidney Willoughby's. Okay? They have a great wine list. They understand sauces. It actually is a really good experience there. So I think treat yourself sometime to the Sidney Willoughby. They don't know we're coming. They don't know I'm pushing them. I've just been there about 8 or 9 times, and it's yummy. I don't know if they're open for lunch. Somebody asked, okay? That is also part of the original Cadillac Springs building. I think Andrew and Tim will talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so just to cap off the story here, later on in the Springs Hotel era, the Harmon Farm and the Spangler Farm were kind of united together. And after the hotel burned down in 1917, a final attempt was made to market the water out of this building. And the water was piped directly from the spring to this building, and it was open from around 1930 to 1936 or 37. Before World War II. And then in 1947, the property was purchased by the Gettysburg Country Club, and a 9-hole golf course was put in. And some of you may know the most famous golfer to frequent the country club, Eisenhower. So Ike would frequently, sometimes every day, come here to golf when he was in Gettysburg. The caddy said he'd sometimes play 3 times around before going back to the farm. But there's great photos of Ike and his grandson David teeing off on the first hole right here. The Secret Service had to set up an entire perimeter around this property every time he came here. And there was on one occasion, there was a man wandered onto the golf course and was approaching Eisenhower's party. And the Secret Service asked the caddy, this like 14-year-old guy, to walk over and ask the guy why he was there. And he asked him, and the guy said, it turned out to be someone who escaped from an insane asylum and was looking for the president. So the Secret Service dealt with that. But on many other occasions, there was once a dog ran over and grabbed the president's ball with the monogram President of the United States and ran with the ball, and the Secret Service chased the dog and wrestled the ball back. So there's all these great anecdotes of Eisenhower being out here and golfing. And the country club obviously closed in around 2010, maybe a little earlier, and then the Civil War Trust and another organization came in, and now everything from where the grass is a little bit bigger onwards is now owned by the National Park Service.
Another great summary.
And a really cool footnote is that Eisenhower had his own golf balls that said Dwight David Eisenhower on them.
Yes.
And he lost a number of those balls in the woods. So I know someone here in the group already found the golf ball. So if you find an Eisenhower golf ball, it is a big deal. Look, she's got 3 of them over there. Okay.
And she can juggle. So let me look.
Okay. So we're on the Spangler property. The Abraham Spangler farm at the time of the battle set over there just to the left of the Gettysburg West apartment building. And you can't really see any remnants of it today. I have a photograph of it from from Her Ridge. Gary, can you pin that around? And we do have an account by Abraham Spangler's granddaughter, who's in the house at the time. Her name is Sadie Hoffman. And she said, we were cozy enough and were together. They were hiding in the basement. But an awful conflict was happening outside in the yard and around the house. Terrible screams of men and screams of shells. We sat together and silently prayed most of the time to keep ourselves together. Grandfather kept praying aloud that the war might soon end and that we would have union under God. When the family emerged late that afternoon, they were behind the Confederate lines, and her house was a hospital. And one of the neat things in her account, as she describes it after the battle, every person in town is issued a little bottle of peppermint oil. And they dump the peppermint oil in a rag, and they hold it over their nose to deaden their sense of smell. You can imagine what it was like in the area after the battle.
Ew.
Also, directly across the road, there is a house with a false stone front. And that is the Isaac Leeper house. That underneath of that is an original Civil War structure. Isaac Leeper lived there. He's a blacksmith, and he was also in the 165th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry. And we do have a picture of the Spangler House from, I guess, the 1920s. And this is when it was the Lincoln Way West. It was a hotel and a restaurant, and apparently they were famous for their chicken and waffles. There you go.
That's coming back, right? Yeah, you're losing your voice too.
Chicken and waffles. So, right over there. And you know what? Somebody asked about postcards. You can buy the postcard of the Lincoln Way West. It's oftentimes for sale. But, you know, a lot of people ask about it and you can't figure out where it's at. Now, I think the guy who owned that building when it was Lincoln Way West also owned the bottling plant. Is that right, the Lynch?
The Clyde Burger.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do something dangerous. Are you ready?
Now that you put it that way.
Or are you going to talk about something else?
No, I'm done.
Okay, so now we have to